I have had my heart broken twice in my short 20 years on this planet. The first time was when I was 11 years old and watched my first ever documentary about one of the many ways we, as a species, were destroying our home. My childhood was spent in Australia's tropical North Queensland, fishing frogs out of the toilet bowl and dodging snakes that hung from the ceiling. And growing up, nature was never an other. It was my one constant, the fabric of my existence and the precious bubble I lived in, blissfully unaware of the outside reality. The moment that bubble burst was my catalyst. Wading through my grief and my despair, I made a vow to be a voice for the voiceless. Now, the second time I experienced heartbreak was in November of last year, as I watched the place I called home, the place I'd fished for frogs, dodged snakes, and rescued beach sea turtles, engulfed in flames. I watched from afar as my country made international headlines for this biblical blaze, and I sat helpless as 1 billion animals perished, as friends lost their homes, as the smoke in the air worsened my grandmother's asthma, as I realized the place I called home would never again be the same. In 10 years of fighting on the front lines of the climate movement, I have learnt one very important thing, and that is that the greatest threat we face is not, in fact, the climate crisis, but our feeling of powerlessness in the face of it. We do not lack the money, the resources, the man and woman power, but the tenacity, the uncompromising resolve to deliver a thriving planet, to become custodians of a future by our own design. We all want that future, we all want to make a difference, yet in the ravine between wanting to make a difference and taking action live the stories that keep us from fulfilling our potential. The future is out of my control. People who do take action are smarter or more experienced. I could never do what they do. The system is too broken to create meaningful change, and I am powerless to change it. I've heard these stories working in classrooms across the UK through Force of Nature and in boardrooms. The rules of the system make it incredibly difficult to do the right thing, to be responsible, to step up rather than shut down, which is why crossing that ravine might seem like an impossible leap. Yet it starts with a single step, and that step is to ask yourself one question. If I could solve any one problem in the world today, what would it be? When you connect to your feelings, what is the injustice that most riles you up, that ignites that fire beneath your skin? Then imagine what the world would look like without that problem. And as you sit securely in the future, looking back to the present day, ask yourself, how did I step up as a conduit for change? How did I wield my gifts in service of a mission greater than myself? The flip side of how royally we've messed up the planet is how many number of ways there are to help it. Climate change is the symptom of broken systems, from the clothes on my back to the food in my fridge, and before us is the opportunity to rethink every part of how we live and breathe and exist in the 21st century. We all have a problem we want to solve, and we all have the blessing of our own gifts to be able to show up and solve it. You owe it to yourself to act, to stop numbing yourself to the situation, to stop scrolling, to stop buying, and ignoring the internal alarm bells that tell us something is seriously wrong. I used to think that I had to beat those feelings into submission, my grief, my rage, my feelings of loss. Yet as my heart was broken for the second time, as I watched my country ablaze, I realized that in those feelings lay my power. To solve our beautiful, bright planet's dark problems, we must look in the face of our grief, of our fear, of our outrage, our despair, and our overwhelm. We must discard the belief that we are powerless and realize that we are infinitely powerful. And we must channel that energy into action. because the world does not need another million words, but the action of one times a million. Thank you very much.